Well, this might be last, but it's probably the most important seat on this whole coach, where the driver sits and where he places his feet. So these irons here correlate with the toe board of the boot. So this is the bottom framework. This board here correlates to this new framework here. This kind of a rabbet joint is where the floorboards came up into it. So this is the ironwork that we'll set up about like so underneath, and this all correlates to the front boot for the driver's feet. Yeah, so this is the top of this boot. The driver would hook his heels against this edge here to push back against as he's driving the team, pulling back on the lines. So this is one of the few remaining pieces of the framework for this boot. Goes up into this framework here. Looks like it's about 1 inch wide, inch to 1.5 inches thick. And by the size of the bolts that are here, the inside board was covered with slats, probably 1 slat for every pair of bolts. So my first goal is going to be to disassemble this. I'll run this iron through the sandblaster, clean it up, and then all this hinge work on this front boot is probably going to be similar to the hinge work that will be on the rear boot. So I'll use these as an example of the style of hinge I need there. So this is how I think it should be laid out. These pieces here have a slight curve to them that go up to the driver's footboard here. These 4 here go back to the frame that is on the body. Should be lined up somewhere about so from these old holes. So I've got this through the sandblaster. I've hesitated to take this toe board here apart yet because the only thing that's holding it together is mainly the wood, which will help us keep that lined up. So I've measured the distance between these 2 irons here, and because they are iron to iron, it's going to give us an overall depth between the rib for the frame and then whatever slats we put in to make up the difference. But it looks like they're just right about 2 inches of clearance between these 2 irons. This board is the only board that's left that would have come up on the inside of this framework, and it'll give us a little bit of an idea of how thick these are. Roughly, it looks to me like it's about 5/8. I'll have to get this off. I have 1 bolt that's connected down here. But between this, whether it's 5/8 or 3/4, and if this distance here is 2 inches, that'll tell us the thickness of our framework. So upon looking at this a little closer, this iron actually will give us a nice spacing on where our framework needs to be on this footboard. So I'm going to use this as our pattern for spacing. We're 13 1/4, 12 3/4, 13 3/4. So why it's off, who knows? It seems like it'd be kind of the personality of this whole coach. We're a little narrower here than we are here. But it is what it is, so we'll try to set up our framework accordingly. So I do think I'll go ahead and disassemble this now, realizing that this iron is going to give us our placement for these irons. This top iron should give us our placements of the driver's footboard framework. So we are just shy of 41, I have 40 and 7/8, and that correlates with the width of the box frame without the framework on the outside. So from the edge of this into this bolt here, these are the hinges that'll go on the frame. Looks like we have 15 inches there, and we're at 15 inches here. So if I come equal 15 inches, that should line us up where we need to be. So I had noticed that the holes on these outside frames were different. This one up here is offset. And it looks like the reason for that is to sidestep this framework here. So this bolt is going to come just inside this frame as it sets about like so. And this hinge on the other side seems to be the same case, offset to miss this framework. So a quick double check. Looks like we're going to be right about there. Get all these kind of lined up. I think that'll work. Well, on this left side of the driver's box of the old remnants that we got in, on the top of the sideboard there was this iron that holds the chain that goes down to the driver's boot that the driver's feet will set on when they're driving. So that goes right about here on this box. Well, this is going to give us the angle, I'm thinking, of the chain that goes down to the driver's boot. And so we need to come up with the curvature, the height, how far it goes out, and kind of solve some of that puzzle of just how is this boot constructed. And try to just hold this in place so we can kind of get a picture of the placement of this iron here for the chain. Hold this right there. Need an extra set of hands. Somewhere about there. Well, if this chain comes down kind of this angle, and this is the top of the driver's box, generally from the front of the seat board we want to be about 20 inches, 18 to 20. I'm not sure how this chain fastens to the top of this driver's boot. There was no evidence. Maybe it hooks right to the top here. There was nothing there. So it's going to be maybe in this kind of an area. I may sketch this out on the floor to where I can kind of lay things out, get the curve here, match the curve on the bottom hinges, get this angle and placement laid out. And I think I'm going to take these top frames off here. The more I'm contemplating, they're kind of in the way to put a solid seat base in. The old pictures look like the side arms are straight up and down and the back is straight. So I'll probably put this brace inside the seat, but I need to get rid of that to put a uniform seat across this platform and then go up. I was thinking that the top was probably going to be fastened into this framework. The more I'm looking at these pictures, I'm thinking it probably isn't. I can see some space between the back of the driver's seat back and the top. So I think I'm going to trim those off and then sketch this out on the floor and see if I can find out what this curve needs to be, what kind of an arch, and where the height is and the placement and all that type of deal. So the way I have this set up right now is based off of an original Abbott & Downing Yellowstone Park coach that I have. I went and measured relationships in that footboard. Well, in that particular one, Abbott & Downing, different maker than this coach, but I was looking for a relationship. From the top of this driver's seat, it comes down about 12 inches. And then from the driver's seat edge forward to the footboard that catches the heel of the driver is about 20 inches. So that's what I set this up. I have actually set it about 19. It could be in there somewhere. And I was assuming, making an assumption, that this should be square with the front of the driver's box. Now I'm running into a puzzle that doesn't seem to fit in this scenario. This curve here is the curved frame of the footboard, but between here and the bottom iron, these curves are not going to match up. So I'm going to take and put this up against some sawn section fellow patterns that I have and determine what this arch is here. What would be the outside diameter of this curve? So I have a pretty wide selection of fellow patterns when I'm putting on 2-spoke felly sections. Well, as I sorted through this 48-inch is actually about the closest fit in outside arch. That fits pretty well, actually. So this bottom hinge iron that is also curved, that's going to go up, it fits pretty close. It's got a little kink right where this bolt is. But that 48 fits it pretty well also. So then the puzzle becomes, if I put that fellow section pattern in here to try to simulate this arch, it's looking to me like this is gonna come way off of where I have it set here. You know, we're gonna kind of curl back in on itself. So I do have a felly section I'm gonna lay down here, and so I can extend this out and see how that works on this 48-inch arch. So this bent fellow section is actually about a 50-inch. It's about 49 in there, but you can see it's pretty similar. So if I were to bring this on up into this area here, you know, I can get that, the toe in that 18 to 20 inch area. We're at 19 inches there. I just can't fathom that that is a comfortable leg position. See, before I had it positioned out closer into this area to give me my 20-inch area. Now I would be clear in here. So if I did bring this out, more like so, in order to get my 20 inches, I'd have to be somewhere in that area. You know, maybe that's possible. Then the toe would be down 12 inches. Going to be pretty close to a 20-inch leg length here. So if it did something like this at the right angle side view, the tip of this would actually be curving back toward the body. And that seems pretty odd to me. The chain, yeah, that angle could be pretty close. I'm assuming maybe there was a ring drilled into the side of this frame. I don't see evidence anywhere else where there was an attachment ring or eye bolt or anything, so maybe it disappeared when this wood rotted out. But it's possible maybe it's set like so. This would be kind of the right angle for a foot placement, you know, the leg to the foot, where it might be pretty comfortable. So the thing about this arch here is it tends to curl back, and I don't see that on these old pictures. I would say this curve comes up to where it stands more in this kind of a shape. It's possible I could take and relax this and bring that down. Also have a little wider felly I can put on here and see how that affects it. Now this is quite a bit wider. This is actually a 56 inch. That's probably too much. It could fit in about like so. That would give me my 20 inches of leg room, which wouldn't be too bad. This actually might be a better fit, and I have enough thickness here I can do some shaping to make this fit. So I'll spin this around. This is 2-inch thick, and I don't need that 2-inch thick, but it actually would give me some room. I'll need this to be about 1 3/8 inches to allow me 5/8 difference in here. That might be actually closer. So being 2-inch thick, I could stand this up and kind of bring this in. I got a little break here, I could cut that out. Kind of make this possibly work, huh? Gives me some leeway. Now this bent felly that I'm contemplating using, you can see I marked it that I bent it on November 20th of 2005. So this is well dried, but you see through the process of the bending that I did end up with some splits and cracks, and that's why I set these aside, that I don't use them for fellies anymore. But I never throw away bent wood just because I find applications just like this driver's boot that I can adapt these bent pieces and make them work. I'm just going to split this in half. I think this is where I have figured about half, and use half for each frame. And I have 2 of these pieces that I've bent and set aside, and that'll make me my 4 frames. So I'm kind of going to guess we're in this area here. If my chain comes down in this area here where it's cross pinned, that's going to be double strengthened. I'm going to have my 19-20 inches here. I think I can accommodate that and make that work. So as I look at these old pictures, the one that's the most broadside with the least number of people in front of them, it looks like the top of this footboard comes about halfway of the driver's box, from the top of the box to the seat, somewhere in this area roughly. So we're going to end up in kind of this area, I'm thinking. That's going to give us our 20 inches here, roughly. So I'm going to shape these frameworks a little bit and try to mock it up where it's going to be. I have to make a separate iron for the right side that's going to hold the chain. Put a platform up here for the seat. Get it to where I can actually sit on the seat, mocked up enough, and see if it is a comfortable foot position. I think that's where we're going to go next week. Appreciate you following along. Thanks for watching.